Today on the Nerdy Gritty, Harper's Magazine addresses cancel culture with a letter on justice and open debate.
What more world disappears inside it? Just another hopeless addict. What they makes a man instead? If the drums don't get you, the guitars will.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Nerdy Gritty, where we delve deep into the details of pop culture. I am Dez.
I don't want to come up with a fun
I am
name
Dez.
I'm
That's
Fox.
That's it. That's
I'm
all
Fox.
we got.
And I have yet to be canceled.
Yes. Yeah,
It's going to happen
yes.
someday.
Oh, yes. I'm working on it. No.
Whether it's in pop culture or it's just from life, I will be canceled.
Cancel. Oh, son, I'm about to be canceled from this life.
I'm about to...
Us.
That's the tea.
Grandpa, none of those phrases have been used in about 50 years.
I'm not sure what you're saying. Anyway.
Hey, Fox.
Yeah, that's me.
We read graphic novels.
I read them from time to time.
And you have a lot. There was one particular that I know that you are a big fan of, and that is Usagi Yojimbo.
I love Usagi.
Yeah.
The comic series.
Hey, did you know that Netflix has picked up Usagi Yojimbo for a series called
I'm so excited.
Samurai Rabbit Usagi Chronicles?
Okay, it sounds like the Japanese translation of an English title.
Yeah.
I'm very excited for it. I did not know that, and I'm so excited now.
So here's what I want you to tell me. Most people don't know about
most
Usagi
people don't know
Yojimbo.
unless you have read the comics or you remember a lot about TMNT cartoons, because he shows up in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles sometimes.
So I want you to tell me, what can we expect from the Usagi Chronicles?
Ooh, deceptively childlike visuals.
Oh.
So Usagi Yojimbo is about a wandering rabbit,
A Ronin. Yeah.
Without a master. And he's wandering Japan, basically just going on adventures, coming across whatever he comes across. And sometimes they're just fun, or they're like the standard arc is just going to be, I went to a town, somebody needed help, and I helped them, and then I left. And then you have characters that show up every once in a while. But often there will be much deeper storylines to them. Much deeper concepts. They'll often involve Japanese culture in a way that, I wouldn't know about. Sometimes it gets dark. Sometimes it gets real dark.
Yeah, it seems like it's not a child's comic.
I'm trying to come up with a analog of something that's maybe I think Avatar, Last Airbender might be similar, where kids can enjoy it 100% and will.
All right.
But you can look deeper, and there are character storylines. There are topics that are addressed that are pretty in depth, pretty heavy.
Hey, what's going on in the news there, Fox?
Let's talk about some news. So, a rare copy of Super Mario Brothers sells at auction for a record-breaking number.
I saw this.
Do you remember what the number was? This is an original copy, a mint condition sealed copy.
I did see
of the original
Super
Mario Brothers.
I want to say it was like $100,000.
The previous record, a private sale for another copy of the same game, was $100,000 and $150. $100,150.
Right.
This new one, $114,000.
That is insane.
For one copy.
I saw headlines. Why? What is it about these that made
let me
these
read this
specific
from
ones
Kotaku.
so valuable?
How the heck did they come up with this number, you may be asking? Well, several reasons. The packaging is sealed, for one, and is graded at nearly perfect, which a 9.4 out of 10, meaning it's distinctly free of wear and tear. There are usually companies that will have very specific standards for grading things like this.
Right.
There's a comic grading company, I forget what they're called, but you can send in a issue that you have and they will grade it and it'll be official, and they will sell for a lot more because of it. It's an early printing of the game. Let's see. It's not as early as the one sold in 2019, but early enough to still have the cardboard hang tab on the box which stores were supposed to punch out and use to hang NES games on pegs like action figures.
Wow.
And it did that, and that was a very early thing that they did.
Oh yeah, no, I remember that, going to Toys R Us, but they had them
just
all
pulling it
behind
off
like
the thing.
it was legitimately like you're going into an arms store, like weapons.
Yeah,
and
you
there's like
had to unlock the...
and there was a like a glass casing around with like mesh in the windows, and there was one person behind the counter that you went and bought video games, and they had all the video games hung up back there.
Yep.
But you couldn't go back there to browse.
So yeah, 114,000. Let's see. This same company, also made waves back in March when they facilitated the sale of a rare Nintendo PlayStation prototype.
Hey, so I like Kingdom Hearts. I'm a big fan,
For some reason.
and I know there are Kingdom Hearts fans out
Just
there,
kidding.
but
I understand.
there is a pretty much consistent lament among all Kingdom Hearts fans, and that's
Because the story is nonsense, or...
no, we don't care about
Oh,
that.
no,
That's
you embrace
fine.
that.
We wholeheartedly embrace that.
Yeah.
They do Kyrie dirty all the time.
She's
man.
the most useless, like...
she does nothing. It
most,
was not
most
until
distressed damsel I've ever seen.
there have been like a dozen different games and novels, whatever else. It was not until the DLC of Kingdom Hearts 3 that she even got to fight, like
Yep.
in any
Not even at... I mean,
way.
you played as her very briefly, right?
No.
No. Oh, you just
No.
watched her. Okay.
Oh, in the DLC.
In the DLC.
Yes.
Okay.
In the DLC, yes. You get one fight with
You
her.
very briefly
no
fight as
leveling
her.
up, no changing.
She's not really a
anything.
character. She's a skin, essentially. Of,
Very much so. Yeah. But good news for Kyrie fans.
okay. She getting her own trilogy.
Sort of.
Oh.
Dark Souls 3 releases the Kyrie mod.
What? Hold on. You're saying Dark Souls 3 released it, or is it
No,
like some
modders.
A modder.
Modders have come out with the Kyrie mod for Dark Souls
Hey,
3.
you start and you immediately get trapped in a big crystal.
And that's it. Game
And then the game's
over. No,
and then
because
says you died.
this is doing Kyrie justice. She gets to be. I watched some videos of this, and it's the same like flourishing kind of style. Like
Sure.
she has a keyblade, and they give her some of the weapons in the game in which you have more flourishing style and things like that. And you can go and you can fight and beat the game as Kyrie in Kingdom Hearts
Wow.
3 now.
Okay.
I love it.
Yeah, that's pretty. That's a great.
It's more than freaking Kingdom Hearts ever did.
Yeah,
for
Square
her.
Enix ain't doing it, so somebody's gotta. Man.
What have you been up to, Fox?
I've been watching the show Devs. It's a Hulu exclusive.
Okay.
Written by Alex Garland, who wrote Ex Machina and Annihilation, two of the best sci-fi movies of the last 4 or 5 years, however long they came out. Ex Machina is incredibly good.
I haven't seen Ex Machina. Annihilation was Natalie Portman, Oscar Isaac.
Yeah, Oscar Isaac is in there briefly.
Yeah.
Oscar Isaac is a main character in Ex Machina. It's about a Turing test, essentially. Incredibly good movie. Go watch it as soon as you get the option to. But he's created and wrote. He made it right. He righted the ship.
Yes, there you
There
go.
at Hulu, they were failing, and he righted the ship. No, it's called Devs. It's about a tech company. Here's the hard thing. It's good sci-fi in the sense that on the surface, yeah, it's about this plot.
Yeah.
Basically, the first episode, not really spoilers, first episode's kind of the impetus for the plot, is a guy who works at a tech company, that does cutting-edge stuff with, like, predictive AI and things like that, gets promoted to their section called Devs. And it's in this super secretive building that nobody knows what it's about. He basically attempts to steal the info, the data, and he is murdered because of it. And that sets off the chain. That sets off the actual plot. And so on the surface, like, yeah, it's about that. That's kind of like where the story starts. But beneath it, there's just so much philosophical concept about like determinism, about free will, about identity, and man, it's so good.
Speaking of watching, I've pretty much just watched a bunch of movies. That's what I've done
Cool.
this week.
Yeah.
So Maybe I'll just do a couple. And then
I
I'll
walked
let
in,
you
your
go
kids
and
were like, "We're so hungry," and you were just, "Not now. I'm watching movies.
I've done nothing but
Get
move.
out of
Yes.
my face."
I filled your bowl with kibble earlier. Watch Hotel Artemis. I don't know if you saw that.
I saw that one in theaters.
Yeah. Oh, you saw it in theaters.
Yeah, it was back when I had Movie Pass.
Man, Hotel Artemis to me it started out fantastic.
It had an interesting premise.
I loved the world that they were building. I loved the characters that they had in it. Jodie Foster was a delight, man.
She's all right. Yeah, she's fun.
She was great. I love Jodie Foster in it. And like they built and they had a good thing going. And then I feel like everything was just rushed after that. Everything just kind of happened.
Yeah.
And it felt like all of the important things were in fast forward.
Yeah.
And they left some things totally like, wait, what happened to Nice? Like the lady, like they never really resolved.
I don't remember
some
enough
things,
about it to.
But yeah, it was a really disappointing resolution.
Yeah.
For what I actually was really, really enjoying. I think that I don't know if I've ever experienced a movie that I would give it like an 8 for the first 45 minutes.
I'm gonna rate it.
And
You
like
need to
a
live
4.5
tweet your rating.
for the last.
So on
part of
average, it was a 6.
I would give it like a 6 or 7.
Yeah.
I would. Yeah. Also watched Dolittle, the
Ooh,
Robert Downey
the
Jr.
Robert Downey
movie.
Jr. one.
And here's what I will say: not near as bad. I don't know what was going on. It wasn't good though.
Yeah.
It's got like a 23. I feel like that's not fair.
I haven't seen it. It held no interest to me. I even had a subscription to the movie theater, and I was like, nope.
It was not that bad. It really wasn't that
Okay.
bad. But it wasn't good.
Yeah.
It felt like the goal was to honor a lot of the kids' adventure movies of the past, like Bedknobs and Broomsticks, or like the Adventures of Baron Munchausen.
Sure.
A lot of these just old kids' adventure movies that
Those
were way
ones.
fun, and it did exactly that with exactly the same quality.
As far as movies go, I watched Palm Springs.
Oh, what was that?
Another Hulu. I've been watching a lot on Hulu. My wife got a subscription to it, so I've been trying to find
We're
what's on
both
there.
giving Disney money in our own way.
We all do. We all do. Death, taxes, and giving
Disney money.
half your wages. Palm Springs. It is Lonely Island. Andy Samberg movie.
I saw like ads for it. I didn't see
This
any
is
previews.
essentially
or anything.
it's a time loop movie. It's a think
it
of
was supposed to be the
Groundhog
new
Day.
Groundhog Day. Yeah, that's
It
what I
is
saw.
Groundhog Day, but with Andy Samberg stuck in a time loop. Every day he's at his like girlfriend's sister's wedding out in the desert somewhere, and it was very, very good.
Yeah?
It was
Oh,
so
good.
fun. It was
Okay.
very funny. It was emotionally like driven. It had all the hallmarks of a good time loop kind of concept of like, it's not just let's get out of this or how do I fix this. It's like searching and like finding what's important. And you know the Groundhog Day thing where it's like, I'm stuck in this thing and it's funny, but then he discovers what's truly important in life and becomes less of a douchebag.
Right. And then I also watched Old Guard, the new
the
Charlize
Theron. Please don't
Theron-
spoil that. I'm excited to watch it.
Oh well, dang it. Okay,
I know she's like an immortal. I know that little thing.
I was
I
going
know
to
it's
talk
based on
about
a
it.
comic series.
I don't want to say anything about
Nothing?
it now. No,
Just
there are a
give
lot
me-
of things that I
just give
want
me
to
a
say about
review.
it, but
like,
you're
is
okay
it
with
good
that?
or not? Just
Here's
don't
what
spoil
I'll say.
anything huge.
No. Okay. It was very predictable.
Oh,
Like it was a very classic actiony film. It was well made,
okay.
good performances.
All right.
It was a good fun movie. I gave it a solid 6.
It's a
in my
Netflix
brain.
thing, right?
And yeah, it's a Netflix thing. It's worth watching. Go watch it.
Yeah.
Because if you have Netflix, you've already paid for it.
Look, I watched Extraction. That was a pretty predictable.
It's
not
better than
whatever.
it's better
But it
than
was
Extraction.
fine.
It's better than Extraction.
All
It
right,
is.
cool.
So that's it for me.
That's all I got. No, wait, hold on. What am I
Oh.
doing? I'm literally looking at it. I've played the first 3 hours of Ghost of Tsushima.
Ooh.
I went and got it at 9 o'clock last night, popped it in, and played like basically the tutorial, and then I started over and started recording it today.
Okay.
So that's going to be on our channel eventually. I don't know when. I'm just going to play it casually and then put it up.
And
It's really fun.
yeah.
Okay. As far as the actual most like gameplay, a lot of the articles you read about it say it's good, but you've played it before. It's the open world thing. You go around, you find the collectibles. clear these locations. That's very true. There's
Yeah.
nothing, as far as I have played very little of it.
Right.
But based on what it's told me so far, it's an open world game where you're, the story though is great so far. I love its construction. I love its like cinematography, how it frames things. It takes like slow story moments and allows them to breathe.
All right. Well, with all that being said,
Yeah,
let's get down to the nitty gritty.
that nerdy gritty for sure.
Hey, before we do that, I just wanted to jump in here real quick and let you guys know that if you are hearing this, it means you are listening to a shortened version of our podcast. We take that first chunk, everything that you listened to before this, and kind of crunch it down into something a little bit shorter. The actual nerdy gritty, what we do after this, is never shortened. It's fully complete. But all beforehand, we definitely just kind of chunk that down a little bit. If you enjoy listening to us converse, and if you enjoy listening to how we felt about the movies we saw or the things we're reading or whatever else, we'd love it if you could jump on over to patreon.com/dezandfox and become one of our members, a patron of ours. At our second tier, you open up what we call the director's cut, which is the full length. Fox says usually 20 minutes ish?
20 to 30 minutes at
20
least.
to 30 minutes of content for every single podcast of just all kinds of stuff we're talking about, as well as you get all of our Patreon exclusive content, be a member of our Discord, and all kinds of great things going on there. If that's not something you can do, we totally understand. We still really appreciate it when you can share, when you tell people about it. We don't pay to advertise, so all stuff is word of mouth. So thank you again, guys, for listening. If you can, head on over to patreon.com/dezandfox. With that being said, let's get on to the nitty gritty.
So recently, Harper's magazine, which I'm going to be honest, I don't know what it's about.
I'd never heard of them until this point.
They released, this is July 7th, 2020. So, pretty recently. They released what they call a letter on justice and open debate. They said it will be appearing in the letter section of magazine's October issue. We welcome responses at letters@harpers.org. This basically addresses the idea of cancel culture,
right?
To be very general about it. And cancel culture is something on the front of not on the front of everybody's mind. There are other things that are probably on the front of a lot of people's minds. But this is something that's really kind of being discussed a lot. We talked about last week Twitch and kind of how they're bringing the hammer down on people violating the terms and conditions and all that, and how that can kind of coincide with the idea of canceling somebody for disagreeing with them or just for what they produce, what they say. What we want to do here is kind of talk about cancel culture in general. We've talked about it in fits and starts in various episodes. That's kind of what we're going to talk about today. But before we do that, I want to read this for us.
Yeah.
I'm going to read this entire letter. It might take 4, 5, 6 minutes. It's not super long, but I want to read it all because I think that will help us kind of discuss the idea of cancel culture from this perspective.
Exactly.
And that's really what we want to look at. We'll talk about there are people who signed it, and we'll talk about who they are, and just kind of what that says about it. But here we go. Our cultural institutions are facing a moment of trial. Powerful protests for Rachel.
Powerful protests for Rachel.
Yeah,
that's it.
Go Rachel.
Good job.
Powerful protests for racial and social justice are leading to overdue demands for police reform, along with wider calls for greater equality and inclusion across our society, not least in higher education, journalism, philanthropy, and the arts. But this needed reckoning also has intensified a new set of moral attitudes and political commitments that tend to weaken our norms of open debate and toleration of differences in favor of ideological conformity. As we applaud the first development, we also raise our voices against the second. The forces of illiberalism are gaining strength throughout the world and have a powerful ally in Donald Trump, who represents a real threat to democracy. But resistance must not be allowed to harden into its own brand of dogma or coercion, which right-wing demagogues are already exploiting. The democratic inclusion we want can be achieved only if we speak out against the intolerant climate that has set in on all sides. The free exchange of information and ideas, the lifeblood of liberal society, is daily becoming more constricted. While we come to expect this on the radical right, censoriousness is also spreading more widely in our culture. An intolerance of opposing views, a vogue for public shaming and ostracism, and the tendency to dissolve complex policy issues in a blinding moral certainty. We uphold the value of robust and even caustic counter-speech from all quarters. But it is now all too common to hear calls for swift and severe retribution in response to perceived transgressions of speech and thought. More troubling still, institutional leaders, in a spirit of panicked damage control, are delivering hasty and disproportionate punishments instead of considered reforms. Editors are fired for running controversial pieces, books are withdrawn for alleged inauthenticity, journalists are barred from writing on certain topics, professors are investigated for quoting works of literature in class, a researcher is fired for circulating a peer-reviewed academic study, and the heads of organizations are ousted for what are sometimes just clumsy mistakes. Whatever the arguments around each particular incident, the result has been to steadily narrow the boundaries of what can be said without the threat of reprisal. We are already paying the price in greater risk aversion among writers, artists, and journalists who fear for their livelihoods if they depart from the consensus or even lack sufficient zeal in agreement. This stifling atmosphere will ultimately harm the most vital causes of our time. The restriction of debate, whether by a repressive government or an intolerant society, invariably hurts those who lack power and makes everyone less capable of democratic participation. The way to defeat bad ideas is by exposure, argument, and persuasion, not by trying to silence or wish them away. We refuse any false choice between justice and freedom, which cannot exist without each other. As writers, we need a culture that leaves us room for experimentation, risk-taking, and even mistakes. We need to preserve the possibility of good faith disagreement without dire professional consequences. If we won't defend the very thing on which our work depends, we shouldn't expect the public or the state to defend it for us. And then it's signed by, I don't know the number, at
Dozens.
least 100, 150, I would say.
Yeah.
Dozens, sure, is a safe amount to say. Signed by lots of people, most of which are categorized here as writers, authors, or also professors at various universities. And then some other people. Some notable names that have signed this. I mean, Margaret Atwood, who wrote, dang it, what's the TV show where they all wear the red and the hood, or the bonnet?
Oh, Handmaid's Tale.
Handmaid's Tale. She wrote Handmaid's Tale as well as its sequel, and she probably writes other things. That's the thing she's best known for.
J.K. Rowling.
J.K. Rowling's on there, which not really sure what she's written. Noam Chomsky, who I know the name as like a scholar. There are others in here. Salman Rushdie. Yeah, lots of people. Gloria Steinem, very famous women's rights activist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, lots of names on here. There's probably others that I should recognize that I don't because I'm not very educated. But so we want to kind of talk about what this is proposing. What this is it's not really proposing anything aside from a general.
No. It's kind of making a statement.
It's making a statement more than it's proposing something. But let's kind of talk about this, and I think we should talk about this as we generally do in the realm of pop culture.
Right.
The things that we talk about, video games, comics,
movies,
movies in general, things like authors, things like that.
Also, just to kind of define cancel culture real quick,
Please,
so we can make sure that as we're going back
this
and
is
forth,
the definitive definition.
No, this is the way
it's the
we're going to be
definition that
talking about
defines.
it. I always find it very important to define the things you're talking about, because I've been in debates where halfway through you stop like, we're talking about different things.
about two different things and we actually agree. Oh, okay.
So cancel culture is when somebody of note or somebody who heads up something does or says something that...
Somebody with power.
Just
in general.
Does something that, or says something that is not agreed with or is perceived very poor, or allegedly, we could even say...
Accused of
things.
Or doing something.
And therefore immediately anything associated with them, there's a public outcry for those things to be done away with, or for that person to be taken from their job, or for pretty much that person to
for
be
that power,
canceled.
that power to be removed from them.
Right, in some way, shape, or form.
Yes.
Yes, and this happens in a lot of different ways, and most often in a very large public outcry online.
Right. Yeah. It's generally an online phenomenon that
Yeah.
we see. I mean, I would be shocked if the concept of cancel culture, hey, this person did a thing, let's not give them our time or money anymore. That's not a new thing.
No.
People have been doing that forever.
But I wouldn't call what you just said, I wouldn't call that cancel
That's
culture.
not exactly cancel culture.
Right.
Cancel culture has typically, this is our interpretation of it at least,
Right.
has a fairly
Negative connotation.
Yeah. So anyway, let's kind of just give our Des, what is your kind of overall take on what they're proposing, what they're stating in this letter?
As so many other things, there's yes and no's.
Of course.
But overall, I agree with this letter.
Okay.
I really, really do. I feel like there is an amount of there are objectively bad things that we as people should objectively stand against, especially as people, you and I, who believe in an objective morality.
Yes.
We can say racism is bad.
Right. Yep.
And if you are a racist, you should not have power. Please, let's all work together to make this person not
let
have
us
power
not give that
anymore.
person any power.
Right. The problem with cancel culture is that it's often insanely quick and insanely like willing to be done without enough evidence very, very often. At the same time, there are things that some people would not consider objectively moral and are kind of opinions that end up people getting canceled for. And at the same time, the amount of notoriety the person has, that depends on how much the backlash of cancel culture will be.
That's true.
There's so, like Ezra Miller, people have forgotten the fact that he choked and brought to the ground a woman in public on camera.
Right.
And now people are talking about the next Flash movie. What's going on with the next Flash movie with Ezra Miller?
Yeah.
And it's but Ezra Miller's not that popular, so whatever. But Johnny Depp,
Yes.
he's huge, and so his whole thing, which we don't even know if that's even true still, it's up for debate, that happened so fast. Poor Johnny Depp was canceled so quickly. And because of that, cancel culture is almost the loose cannon of the social media world, I would say, of the internet.
It can do a lot of damage, and because it's kind of a uncontrolled process.
Right. Yeah, literally, like the loose cannon turn comes from ships where they would have their cannons tied down. This one's lit and not tied down. It is loose.
Right.
It's going to hurt things around it that aren't meant to be hurt. And
Sure.
I think cancel culture is like that very, very often.
I think I agree with you for the most part. In a very overarching sense, I do agree that I think with this letter saying that debate is an important thing.
Yeah.
To be a marketplace of ideas that can be agreed with or not, and for people to be given credibility if they've earned it before they are outright canceled or shamed or destroyed publicly, to at least hear out what is being said. I'm partially playing devil's advocate.
Yep.
And also partially think that I don't know if cancel culture as we've termed it really is as pervasive as it is made out to be by this letter or even by us.
Right.
I don't really, in my view, I don't really ever see somebody get canceled for no reason.
Right.
Usually there is some not evidence. That's not the word I want to use. Usually there's a reason.
Yeah.
That's not a bold
Whether
statement.
or not it's a true reason or a good reason.
It's not
or
just,
whatever.
hey, this guy sucks now because I don't like that movie he was in. Like, whatever. It's usually, okay, he did and said a thing. Or he's been accused by several people of doing and saying a thing. Whatever. Generally, the idea, I think a big problem with this that I have is that it presupposes that somebody deserves the status or power or position that they have.
So you're saying that those who are not being canceled, they deserve that power that they have?
No. What I'm saying is that, hold on, let me try to put this in a way that, because again, I don't not agree with this.
Right.
I like there can, it's a slippery slope argument, but I think there can be just this increase of calling out ideas that we just disagree with.
Yeah.
In a subjective manner, and we do have to address that. It's always going to be subjective.
Yes.
There are things that we want to say that are objectively wrong, and that we, by our worldview, are objectively wrong.
Right.
But if we have a free, open place marketplace of ideas, then objectivism doesn't really play a part in it.
Right.
Because somebody might disagree, and then therefore what we think is objective doesn't matter. So anyway, I don't think. I'm still trying to figure this out. Didn't do some editing here for sure. I think this presupposes the idea that somebody like Ezra Miller should or should not be canceled depending on public perception. I might not be putting this correctly. Maybe it's with Twitch. Maybe we'll go back to that Twitch argument. Sorry, I'm trying to put this correctly.
Right.
Going back to the Twitch thing, where I was a little more okay with bringing down the ban hammer with impunity than you were, in the sense that I'd rather have a culture that demands better than provides a place for toxic or problematic values or ideas to be given the same clearance, same space to breathe as things that are not toxic or problematic, knowing full well that that's a subjective standard and everything could be toxic to somebody else.
Here is my problem with that, and my problem, and this actually really, really addresses cancel culture and my problem with it in a big way, that causes more division than unity in the world. I feel, and I don't just feel, I see very, very often that when we demand that people are better, they become better either A, because they want to remain in power or popular, or B, they lose that power and become embittered and ingrained in their beliefs, and those who agree with them all circle around them, and all of them become ingrained, even further ingrained in their beliefs, because now they have a martyr.
I could see that.
Somebody's been martyred.
Unfortunately, and now, that's a thing that happens in church culture.
And so I was going to bring exactly that up.
Yeah.
There is something called theocracy. Theocracy is when your government is based on a religion. And the problem with theocracy is it demands, it makes it a law that you follow this religion. And at that point, it is not a belief. It is not your desire to follow that faith. You must. And that is a problem for belief. I genuinely feel that if we want people to be better, we need to show them better. My biggest problem with cancel culture is it is bullying. I don't think you can argue that. Cancel culture is bullying in a lot of ways.
I think it could be, yes.
When you see the things that are said to J.K. Rowling or to whomever, whether or not you think they deserve those things said to them, you could just say, hey, I expected better of you, and it sucks to see that you're not doing that. I'm not going to buy your books anymore, just so you know. And you walk away. And then 30,000 people do exactly that. That does not condemn somebody for doing poorly. That encourages them to be better. And cancel culture does the exact opposite of that. It is a divisive thing. It exists to condemn. And so I struggle so much when I see things like, again, even in deserved areas, we talked about Ezra Miller or Dr. Disrespect, these people that we're not big fans of in general. But even
who, by the way, has recently said he's considering legal action against Twitch because he still has not been told why he's canceled, why he was banned from their platform.
Ridiculous. Again, we've said it 100 times.
Tell him why.
We get it.
Tell him.
There's plenty of reasons why. So tell him. Let him know.
Let him know.
Anyway, but even in these situations, there is an opportunity to encourage people to be better rather than bullying them out of power.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that you are actually kind of okay with the idea of cancel culture, but don't like the spirit in which it's carried out.
Yeah, definitely. And see, even then, I think cancel culture, and we've already mentioned this, has a negative connotation.
It does. It has a cultural connotation of, like, you're bad, and so I get to insult you or whatever. Like, it's open season on you because you did a thing I don't agree with. But,
like, peaceful protest, so let's just say something as simple as there is a shop owner, and that shop owner does not like Mexicans.
Understandable.
And so somebody stands outside and says, this shop owner does not like Mexicans. And then other people choose not to go there anymore. Good. That's awesome.
Okay. So what's the unacceptable version then?
If people stand outside and throw stones through his windows and shout at him and tell him how awful he is, tell his family, tell him that he should die, that he hopes they hope his family dies, things like that.
Okay.
Because that doesn't tell this person, hey, you could be better. Look how good we are. We're throwing stones through your windows and saying we think your family should die.
But throwing stones through... Breaking glass... If you watch me playing Last of Us Part 2, you know how much I love breaking glass. So...
And maybe that's a big part of it, is we are trying to tell people they should be better by being awful to them.
Yeah, there's an irony in what we're saying. It's like bullying somebody for being a bully, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, stop pushing somebody and then pushing them. Like... Right. It goes down to the philosophical concept of, like, you know, like Gandhi said, like, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. Like,
right.
If you want the world to be a better place, what was it that Michael Jackson said? Take a look at yourself in the mirror.
Make a change.
Make a change.
Yeah.
It's a good song.
If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make a change.
Anyway.
Key change.
Yeah, make a key change. Okay, so I can get on board with that. I think I'm a little closer to where you are. Like, I appreciate the idea that, because that was going to be something I was going to bring up was, well, canceling somebody in its essence, if we're trying to take out the negative connotation, is just taking away their power.
Yeah.
And I think that's perfectly fine to do. If there's an author we don't like what they're saying, J.K. Rowling, then I'm just not going to buy your books anymore.
Right. Which... She's already made all the money in the world. She's fine.
She didn't need to write a single book. She probably won't. She might even had books planned to write. Maybe she's like, nah, people aren't going to.
Never mind.
Anyway, she'll just write as, she has a pseudonym.
But everybody knows who that is, too.
Right.
And on her Twitter it says also writes under the name.
Which is, okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's what I was going to say is, well, then we can't just remove the idea of canceling somebody altogether. In a pure form, I guess, as much as it can be, because it's perfectly fine to say I disagree with what you're doing or what you said, or you did a thing and I don't like what you did, so I'm no longer going to give you my power, time, or power, time, or money, or whatever I can give that elevates your status. And that's a fair thing to do.
Yeah. Well,
we talk about that a lot with, like, Steam like, or the video game companies, purchasing power.
And that's the thing, because like we said, we're talking pop culture situations here.
Yeah.
That's the thing with pop culture, is the only people who have power in pop culture are given that power by fans.
By fans, yes.
Exclusively. And when they lose fans, they lose that power. People, like, if I try to talk about Steve Gutenberg today, he never did anything bad, but he's just not popular anymore.
Right.
He doesn't have the fans anymore.
Which is how it goes. I mean,
right. And you know nothing wrong, but it's just the point that's saying that he has less power now.
Right. Even for completely normal reasons, neutral reasons.
And so it's the same type of thing today, where if someone does something terrible, you can choose not to patronize them anymore, not be a patron of their
whatever it is
anymore. And if enough people do that, then they lose their power. If enough people say, hey, Aquaman 2, we're not going to go watch that if Amber Heard is Mera, then very much so, Warner Brothers is going to stop and say, look, man, we can make money or we can not make money. That's our problem right now. Like, we have to consider this, and it's still, we don't know for sure who Mera is going to be.
Yeah, a much more like objective reason is, hey, the first one was bad, so we're not going to watch the second one.
Right.
You should say that first. Well, maybe not first, but say that also. I think there's a really good example of of this kind of idea of like, well, power is given to people. Really, in every context, power is given to people.
Right.
Nobody has power in of themselves. But the Washington Redskins.
Yeah.
Famously defiant. The owner of Dan Snyder, I think his name is, the owner of the Redskins. I might be giving the wrong name there. Famously just defiant. No, this is our name. It's lots of racist overtones of like, it's about culture, it's about legacy and heritage. And no, it's not, man. It's a dictionary defined racial slur.
It is.
But
man, okay, real quick on that. A while back, there was a commercial paid for by a group, like several Native American tribes all pitched in, and it was, we call each other this, we call each other that, we call each other like all the tribe names, we call each other brave, noble, strong, we call each other Indian, native, like all these other things, but there's one thing that we don't call each other.
Yeah.
And then it fades into the Redskins logo. It's like, woof. So yeah, change your name, guys.
Yeah, well, they are. I don't know if you've seen this.
No.
It has been officially decided they will be changing their name.
No way. I had no idea.
Yes, because I believe it was Nike, maybe? One of their huge sponsors wrote a letter and said, hey, please change it. As soon as the money was threatened, as soon as one of their sources of power and privilege essentially was threatened for them, they said, oh yeah, that's important to us now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, no, I don't even like that name anyway.
You know what, Nike? That's a good point.
Hold on, let me confirm. I know that one of the proposed new names is Red Tails, which I think is perfect.
Yeah,
because it still has that like same concept, very similar name, but Red Tails is was a
tribe.
No, a squadron in World War II of black pilots.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
And it's like, oh, that's a really cool one. Like, it's kind of going
cool.
the opposite direction there, and I like it. Let me look up who it was, because I want to make sure I'm saying the right name here.
Yeah.
The right brand. It was FedEx, actually. FedEx. They wrote a formal letter to Dan Snyder, Washington Redskins organization, saying, hey, we'll not give you money anymore. They were like, yes, sir. And so, like, this is clear, like, hey, you can. It's an unfortunate reality that it's often the source of the power that we give people is like money or whatever, just the attention. But we can do something by offering to remove that power if they don't do it. Which, man, it's the hardest question about all of this is, how do we decide, like, where is the line drawn of cancel worthy or not?
And this is exactly like something that's part of the issue here is mob mentality.
Sure.
You use the phrase we, and I don't think we choose anything at all.
Sure. I think that's it, ideally.
Right. I think you say, you know what, man, I don't agree with that. I don't like that, and so I'm not going to do that anymore. And if, again, 50,000 other people also do that, then awesome. But it's the problem that we get online, and one person says, hey, I don't like this, and another person says, yeah, this is really stupid, and then another person says anybody who disagrees is an idiot, and another person says everybody's worthless if they don't
get
agree
into
with
an
that.
echo chamber of opinions,
and it gets more and more extreme as well. And then all of a sudden, somebody who might have been on the fence sees this extreme, these insults, this vitriol, and they think, oh, I better agree with them. I was on the fence, but I had better agree with them now because I'm on the internet, I'm on Twitter, and if I tweet something that's neutral, or even sometimes if I'm totally silent, it's going to get bad. Yeah. And so I need to agree with them. Right. But when we begin to respect people's opinions, even when we disagree with them, like 100%, as a person of color, when I have met, think of racists, my thought, something my dad taught me is, you know what? You had that one negative experience of meeting a racist.
Mm-hmm.
They have to live the rest of their life being a racist. Who came out worse in that situation? And it sucks, and I pity them, and I encourage people to be better, and sometimes they won't, but they're going to live their whole life a racist and then die, and that sucks, man.
Hopefully not, but
Right,
it's
yeah.
very possible.
Yeah. And so that's obviously like a very specific situation, but in overall culture, in cancel culture, hey, go online and say J.K. Rowling's a TERF, a trans excluding radical feminist, and I really disagree with that.
Yeah.
I feel that trans women are women, absolutely, and they deserve all the rights that any other woman gets. And it's really disappointing to see you say that, J.K. Rowling. And then 100,000 other people say that. Now it's not J.K. Rowling's like, I'm being threatened, maybe I should change my opinion. Now it's, hey, maybe I should really think, why do this many people disagree with me?
Right.
And on the flip side, if you're the one person who says that, or maybe it's you and 5 other people saying that, maybe you should think about your opinion.
That's a huge thing, is always being willing to learn, educate yourself, and change your opinion if you feel as though that would be the right thing to do.
Right.
There's 2 things I want to talk about here, I guess toward the end. So right now in the quarantines, a lot of churches, including the one that I work for, has been up until this Sunday as of recording, we have not been having our building has not been opened.
Right.
We have not been having our normal Sunday services. They've been streamed online. And
it still won't be normal.
Yeah, it's very different. But I've been attending several online roundtables, online discussions about reopening in this time, what we should be doing, what somebody in ministry should be doing when they're one of the major ways a church employee gets part of their job is a Sunday morning. That's a major thing. So when that's taken away, what do we consider? What do we do? And what's important for us to think about? And every single time, it's brought up in some capacity, but there was somebody last week who basically said, in response to a question that somebody asked, it was me, about, hey, some people don't like the idea that we want them to wear a mask to a church service. There is, the concept that America is a Christian nation, and they gonna bring this out here. They confuse their religion and their patriotism, and it's a problem.
Hey, as this is a posting, there is a video on the Practical Apologist. Should Christians wear masks?
You're gonna have to pay the nerdy gritty. Man, I'm excited to watch that though. No, there's people who disagree with that, and so my question was, well, what is the best way to kind of handle that situation? Because I can understand both sides of, well, sorry, can't come, or also, well, we want you here anyway because we want to invite you anyway. And the response was, you have to figure out what your values are and then stick with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's extremely important in a culture that tends to cancel people, or has a tendency to cancel people that disagree with them.
Right.
Because it's okay to do that as long as you know what your values are and you stick to them. As soon as we get into this mob mentality of who can be the most liberal, who can be the most progressive, quote unquote, that's not inherently a bad thing, but it can have pretty bad consequences for people. And so we have to figure out what our values are. If your value is trans women are women absolutely, then stick with it, say it, get it out there. But also remember that that's your value, not destroying somebody who says it. And that's different than taking away their power. There's so much nuance here.
It really is.
Because destroy is a bad word to use because it doesn't really actually have any real.
Not literal destroy.
Not really.
Some people's careers have been ruined.
Right.
Or some people
Try
have been moved.
as much as you can. Understand that there are people with opinions you will disagree with. That also, man, it just reaches to everything right now. Why do we take down statues of people who also did good things? Everybody contains multitudes. The one thing they said, or the several things they said you don't disagree with, doesn't mean they aren't an author you love.
I think you brought up statues, and I think statues are a great metaphor for cancel culture.
Okay.
In as much as what began as hey, we are glorifying these people who were racists. They were Confederate, generals, whatever else.
By definition, they fought against the country that they lived in.
Whatever their personal lives, however good of a dad or whatever else, they are remembered for their racist actions.
Right, and glorified through a statue.
So let's take that statue down.
Let's put it somewhere where it's more a historical context of education.
And then other people were like, well, hey, this person was a founding father, but also owned slaves. Mm-hmm. That's a little bit more like, ooh, okay, I definitely see that's not a good thing, but also they did very good things as well in a different culture. But take it down. Sure, statue's taken down.
You don't need a statue.
Right. But then it was things like, there's a statue of an elk in Portland that was set on fire.
That elk is a racist, Dez.
And it's just like, we've come to a point now.
He hates brown bears.
Where the anger is towards statues, not toward the issue.
Yeah, it's just
it's
loose
dumb.
cannon there.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
And I feel like that happens in cancel culture all the time, where the act of calling people out becomes the quote-unquote fun of it, or like the excitement of it, or the riling everybody up. It's no longer genuinely about the issue. It's no longer saying, hey, I don't think it's appropriate for you to be doing those things, or hey, I heard that you were a wife abuser and there's substantial evidence and therefore I'm not gonna do your stuff anymore. Be better, man. Be better. That's not it. Now it's all right, it's Tuesday, who can we call out today?
Yeah, there's a trend on Twitter recently, and part of it's a joke, but it's the insert celebrity name here is over party, and it's just sometimes it's a joke, sometimes it's real, and it's just like, well, who's being canceled today kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating to see. There is one other thing I think is important. Hassan Minhaj, who is the host, he was on The Daily Show and is the host of Patriot Act on Netflix. Really great show. Very Last Week Tonight, but for millennials, right. Essentially, for Gen Z. He talked, at one point, I think it was him. It might have been somebody else, but I think at one point he just said, hey, there's a lot going on. There's a million things to get riled up about. And all of them probably deserve your passion and your, attention in some capacity. But that is going to destroy you.
Yes.
I think I'm trying to bring in too many things, but there's a quote from the Wheel of Time series where there's a people group that have this nonviolent attitude where the quote is, the axe damages the tree and itself when it hits. You cannot, if you are emotionally outraged against everybody all the time, and I understand that's an exaggeration, it's going to have a negative impact on you at the same time. You're going to start to see the world as, who am I against?
You and I talked about exactly this recently, and how I was just kind of saying that the quarantines have brought us to a point where we see things so globally and we're losing the individual. Yeah. And because of that, there are people that are just outraged and angry all the time because they only see the global and national
see everything
outlook,
through the internet right now,
and not just,
even more so than usual.
Hey, let's just chat, dude.
What Hassan Minhaj says, like, hey, there are a lot of things that deserve your passion and your voice, but you should not be passionate about all of them. What are your values? What are the things that you find to be the most important? And then stick to them. If you want to stand up for trans women and use your voice against, the power that J.K. Rowling has and the platform she has, then do it.
Yep.
Add a couple more things in there, maybe. But I think it will be insanely good for your mental health to pick your battles and then fight passionately for them. Because it will help you not see the world as, who am I against today? But it will help you see the world as, what am I fighting for? Yeah. And that's a better place to come from when you are in an unjust world.
They say it's better to, no, I'm mixing quotes here. It's
better to count your chickens till the cows come home.
Something about standing for something. You have to stand for something, or you'll fall for anything. Yeah.
Speaking of Hamilton.
But you also can't stand for everything.
Right.
You cannot. You
Right.
are a single human being. You do not have the capacity to stand for everything.
Right.
And yeah, absolutely choose your battles. I also think, coming back around to the letter, that there is an incredibly important point in there. If you are a liberal and if you consider yourself at odds against conservatives in some way, cancel culture is ultimately divisive. And it is even divisive among liberals. And it creates several smaller sections in liberalism that all are within their own circles. Meanwhile, conservatives are all just happy with one another, are willing, much more willing to concede points. I find that very true, that liberals are very willing to concede points with each other, saying, okay, you know what,
You mean conservatives?
Conservatives are much more willing to concede points to each other, and therefore it's how Trump won in 2016. And
Interesting take.
yeah, it's how Trump won in 2016, and if it continues like this, where liberals are dividing amongst themselves, it's how he's going to win again in 2020. And I don't want that to happen.
Yeah, I don't think many do.
Yeah. So just know that being willing to say, hey, I don't agree with you, but I'm still united with you on all these other things.
Find common ground.
Yeah, find common
and
ground with
recognize
people.
That you'll never disagree. You'll never agree on everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Fox, do you have any final thoughts just about cancel culture overall?
No, I think I got everything out there. We solved it.
Yeah.
We solved the problem.
Done.
You're welcome, world. It just took our voices.
I would just say, hey, encourage people to be better by being better. If you try and encourage people to be better by being worse,
By using worse methods.
yeah, that's inherently flawed.
Is there anybody out there? Here's a good question. Anybody out there you just want to cancel real quick? Or I'm thinking Wheeler from Captain Planet.
Which one was he?
He was the redhead.
Oh,
I think he had
really?
the fire ring.
Man,
Yeah. I don't have a reason. I just don't like. Let's just cancel him.
cancel him.
Hashtag cancel Wheeler from Captain Planet.
No, I'm gonna go Josh from Drake and Josh.
What?
Drake's fine.
Oh, you've never even watched the show.
I've never
then
seen
Drake
a single
was much
second.
more
I have
problematic.
not seen a second
Drake
of
was
Drake and
much
Josh
more toxic
than other way
mess.
around.
Thank you.
Than
Cancel Drake first.
from Drake and Josh.
Let's just cancel Megan. There's the little sister. She was
Sure.
annoying.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys.
Tell us who you want to cancel.
Azula.
That's fair.
Thank you for watching, guys. Thank you for your support. Let us know what you think overall about not the Harmon letter,
The Dan Harmon letter. The Harper's letter.
the
Harper's Magazine letter.
Yeah, let us know what you think about the Harper's letter. Let us know what you think about cancel culture and our kind of overall thought about it as we went back and forth here. Thank you to you guys for listening. We also want to make sure we say a great big thank you to Granger for the use of our theme song, All My Friends Have Wi-Fi, and Some of My Neighbors Do Too, off of the album Dear Sam. That album is great. They got a lot of other like singles and things like that too, and they're just, man, they're an awesome band. They rock. They do.
Go ahead and check out our YouTube channel. If you're not listening to this already on there, if you're listening to it on one of the podcast aggregators, you might find it. Then our YouTube channel has a lot of videos on it. Most of it's like Let's Play. We play a lot of video games together and separately. Right now we've got Days Gone still, because once again it is the longest game in the world.
Yeah.
The Last of Us Part 2 is up there. My playthrough of the Spyro trilogy is up there.
120%, like a full walkthrough.
120%. That's just the first one, but I do platinum all three games. I do everything in all three because I love Spyro. And then my playthrough of Ghost of Tsushima will be coming out soon at some point. There's a lot going on. Your playthrough of Code Vein.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I will be releasing a full playthrough of Evan's Remains.
Dang.
It'll be available to our patrons first.
Okay.
For a little while, but then it's going to come out in a little while as well. So
if you like video games and want to watch us play them, like everybody should, there's something for you because we literally have thousands of videos.
Or if you like puns, our July Puntleys just came out. You can go check out our July
Puntleys. Those are fun.
All right, guys. Thanks again for listening, and always remember that save games, save lives.
Bye.
My voice